At its core, Baroque is a roguelike role-playing game, with the player tasked with reaching the bottom of a huge construction called the Neuro Tower. The stated aim, as requested by the projection of the Archangel, is to reach the Absolute God and kill it with the Angelic Rifle. And that's it. The rest is up to you. The game then leaves the player to piece together bits and pieces of dialogue or hints from NPCs in order to progress the plot. For instance, you meet the Guardian Angel or Dr. Angelicus. If you show her cultivating fluid, she mentions she worked on this with Longneck. If you show the fluid to Longneck, he becomes irate and immediately throws it away. It's difficult to work out how to proceed in Baroque, but not impossible. The general rule is that if you have major items like the rifle and Idea Sephiras, then show them to people until something happens. But until then, you'll be spending time in the Neuro Tower. The Neuro Tower is an ever-changing scientific facility, the purpose of which becomes clearer the more you progress through it. You were originally just tasked with killing God with the Angelic Rifle on the bottom layer, and if you were to do just that, you would find yourself in an infinite loop, never able to proceed. You can also merge with God, which you're warned against, but doing so is another possibility to advance the plot. And so it goes, you'll be delving into the tower more and more. To give you something to do in there, you fight meta beings, who are people that have been distorted into strange forms by the experiments being conducted by the Archangel. Some are simple damage sponges, while others hang from webs, block you like artificial barriers, or hang from the ceiling and poison you. To help you fight back, you can find swords, items called torturers that impact large groups with status effects or damage, and even parasites to infect yourself or an item with buffs. You can also brand yourself or weapons and achieve a similar outcome. I personally love the torturer mechanic. You learn to save these for later floors where enemies become numerous and extremely strong. Seeing as everything resets after a run through the Neuro Tower, you can throw items into things called consciousness orbs, which send them back up to the surface for use in later runs. This lets you make concurrent runs easier or continually buff items to give yourself an edge. This is a great system, and it helps keep a sense of progress through the game. From a presentation perspective, Baroque is beyond reproach. Stunning lighting effects cast eerie red and green glows over sharp, textured surfaces. The frame rate dips during combat sometimes, but that's acceptable considering it's generally very solid. The soundtrack is also incredible, featuring choral-like hymns, instrumentation using machinery, and eerie chanting. It fits the atmosphere perfectly. Of special note is the character art in the game. Beautifully dreary and otherworldly depictions of people twisted into distorted forms, representing something like pain or guilt from their life before the changes to the world caused by experimenting on God. I think in Baroque I found something that is the closest to a true piece of art in video game form. Its perceived limitations or gameplay issues actually play into the hand of its central conceits. It's a maudlin, draining, exciting, and contemplative experience that has had me thinking about it a lot since I've been playing it. You see, Baroque has a background and story with the central themes of guilt, punishment, distortion, and repetition running throughout. What I've found while researching the original game is that for those Baroque tracks, like any piece of true art, they find meaning in something within it. What follows is my personal take on how I feel about Baroque as an experience. To sum it up, there's a line you can find spoken by the horned girl that reads, "Repetition is my sin." Everyone's felt guilt about something they've done in the past. Maybe they were even punished for something that they did they feel guilt for, but there's a part of that guilt that never really goes away. It comes to you in moments of quiet contemplation. For me, often when I wake up in the early morning, or points in the day where distractions cease and all that exists is hissing silence closing in on you. To me, the gameplay cycle of Baroque feels like a microcosm of life itself. You wake up, stumble towards your task to grind through that day, a day that never really looks that different from one another. Could be work, school, it doesn't matter. You fight through it, go back to bed, and start again. Getting through the Neuro Tower is hard because life is hard. Along the way you get sick, hurt, and punished, all the while the ticking clock of your own personal energy puts an expiry date on it all. You can prolong your punishment, but ultimately you must rest, and along the way the remnants of your own guilt or that of those around you haunts you and exhausts you, and then you accomplish your goal, or give up, and then wake up again and do it all again. Progress is difficult through the game because actual progress through life is difficult. It's obtuse, complicated, and confusing, and unless you try to find an answer, you're never just given it. I walk away from playing Baroque drained and sometimes really frustrated because I got a terrible floor layout that kills me immediately, or I'm not given enough meat or fruit. However, every time I walk away from it and I scrape something together to show some progress, it's always immensely gratifying. It reminds me that although life is punishing and painful, it can also be incredibly rewarding when you try to put your guilt and self-loathing aside to accomplish a seemingly impossible goal. Would I recommend Baroque? I'd recommend trying it. For those it sticks to, you'll go on a journey that cannot be compared to any other video game. For those it doesn't, that's fine. It makes sense.